You're listening to Workforce Innovation News, powered by LWIA 23. Get ready to hear about all things workforce development and workforce innovation. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, and welcome to WIN, Workforce Innovation News. I am Jamie Korda-Hijawi, the Director for LWIA 23. Today, we're going to talk about the future workforce, and the best person in the world, well, at least in our WIOA world here in Economic Development Region 7, LWIA 23, Laura Sullivan from the Eastern Illinois Education for Employment Systems 340 is the perfect guru for all things future workforce. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Laura. I appreciate it. Go ahead, give us a little introduction, something to know about you and what you do at EFES.
Great. Well, thank you for inviting me to join you on today's podcast. This is the first time I've ever done a live podcast, so this is amazing. So yes, I am Laura Sullivan, the Director of the Eastern Illinois Education for Employment System. We are a regional career and technical education consortium that helps school districts, grades K through 12, to meet the needs of their students and develop workforce skills while students are still young. Obviously, kindergartners aren't going to develop workplace skills, but it's definitely a great opportunity to start talking to students about future career opportunities that they might have. Taking a step back for just a second, our office works with 25 school districts over an 8-county area. So we work with a lot of school districts. Our counties are Coles, Clark, Cumberland, Douglas, Edgar, Effingham, Moultrie, and Shelby counties. So we do have a pretty big region, but we have a lot of great big schools. We have a lot of great, really small schools, and we do all that we can to help connect students in those school districts with the world of work.
That's a big job. That's a lot, but it's all very good stuff and it's very necessary. We look around today and we talk about today's workforce and, you know, what skills they are lacking, what skills they do have. And I think we really need to kind of look backwards. Well, what did we teach them? What were they exposed to when they were of an impressionable age and making life decisions? And I think we're doing a good job of that now. But we've entered this time period where things are very, very different than they have been, and they change quite drastically, quite quickly. So I just kind of wanted to get some of your insight of maybe what things have changed, or how have you taken a different perspective on preparing students now for work later within the context of like the pandemic and Zoom learning, remote learning for school. How did priorities shift? Did processes or methods shift? What do you have on that?
I think there's been several things that have shifted as a result of the pandemic. I know we talk a lot about the Zoom meetings and virtual learning, but what I really feel that did with from a student perspective is it's really kind of taught our students flexibility. It's really kind of taught them, you know, if they were at home and had technical issues with their home devices, they were able to you know, they had to really kind of troubleshoot some of those issues themselves. I think that's kind of brought about that change. I feel like it's really brought about a change in how important technology has really become in our lives, and conversing with people. Expanding our ability to reach out to people across the state, across the nation, across the world. And it's really helped us to maybe put some of those students in contact with a lot of that diversity and really kind of, you know, some of those students that were on the fence of, well, I want to be a professional YouTuber, but now maybe they can connect that with, oh, it's not just YouTubing, it's video producing, it's video editing, it's increasing my bandwidth at my home. How can I do that so that I can produce better quality videos? And maybe it's helping our students kind of put some of those pieces together that maybe we wouldn't have done in the past. So with our office, we want to I mean, even COVID, you know, with outside of technology and virtual learning in those environments, there's really been a need for hands-on skills. What happened to the workforce when COVID hit? We don't know. You know, I mean, people have been exiting the workforce, whether it's early retirements or maybe it's I'm just not going to work anymore. I'm not necessarily old enough to retire, but I've just decided I'm in a place where I can financially help myself and not work as much. Or that's really kind of come about. And in manufacturing, our manufacturers really bringing processes back to the United States where maybe they were farmed out in the past. So it's kind of working with business partners, some of the same partners that you guys work with, to see what skills are needed within the workforce in all areas of careers, in helping connect our students and our teachers with those workforce partners so that we can better prepare students for the future job market as best we can now in K-12 to help down the road.
I really like how you point out just some of the things that we went through, that the students went through during like remote learning, virtual learning. While we don't think about it in the moment, those new skills that they're learning, they are actual skills, and they are going to be very applicable when they get into the workforce. And it was in some type of way a exploration of potential careers out there for them. And I don't think a lot of people necessarily see that in the moment. It's not until later. So what else is it that we are maybe overlooking that you see all the time that we are doing with our students currently, or we should be doing with our students?
One of the big hot topics in education right now are industry credentials and providing those in the classroom. I know when I was a student in high school, credentials really weren't the thing. And what does that really mean? What does that mean to employers? What does that mean to parents? What does that mean to our students? The state is looking at making sure that our students, that no matter what they do after high school, whether it's college and or career, we want students to have the skills to be employable immediately. Maybe they could even work while going to college. And college doesn't necessarily have to be a 4-year degree. It could be a 2-year degree. It could be additional certifications. There's so many options out there. As far as industry credentials, those would be things like Microsoft Office specialist. Students can actually, while they're in the classroom, learning content that maybe they've always had as part of their class, but now they can sit and take a test and then have that certification that says, I know these skills. I know how to do a mail merge. I know how to do a form letter. I know how to write proper business etiquette memos and things like that. OSHA 10, that's always kind of been a big thing in safety and agriculture and in manufacturing positions. Food service sanitation licenses. We now, many of our nutrition and culinary arts classes are offering that so that students know, they're taught the food service sanitation skills, but now they have that piece of paper and that test and that industry certification that says, I can do this on a job because I know this. This is verified by an industry leader, by a national certification test that anybody could take. And really kind of adding value to career and tech ed classrooms by offering some of those certifications.
I can see, like, from the very business side of me, the workforce development side, like, yes, you want to have those credentials, those industry recognized credentials, that's going to help you get a job. But really looking at it just from a a parent perspective, I'm sure that's also really encouraging and motivating them, building up some self-confidence so that they will, when they get into the workforce, that they're more prepared, not just the technical skills of it, but also the just kind of emotional intelligence that you need to have. So yeah, that's super interesting. And that was not something that was really talked about or pushed even when I was in school. So that seems newer.
Yeah.
But it does take me to my son. This is his first year as a high school freshman. So we had to go and, see the guidance counselor. And the way it worked out for us was we saw the guidance counselor with a group of other parents and a few other students from his class. So a small group. And the guidance counselor was talking about work co-op programs. So like they could leave school a little bit early because in the afternoon or morning during that block of time, they would be working and getting on the job experience and also earning, a little bit of spending money too. And one of the parents said, well, is that even something you would recommend for a university bound child? And I did have to kind of bite my workforce tongue and just let that play out and let the counselor handle it. But I do feel like left over from maybe years gone by, especially when I was in school, I think there's still this idea of there's kids that go to work and then there's kids that go to college and they don't ever intermix or cross paths anywhere. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a stigma that is really hard to overcome. I was with a group of colleagues last week and we were talking about that. It's a generational mindset. I mean, and a generation could be, 100 years long. You're right. When I was in school, it was you either went into work or you went to a four-year university. There was no in between. And definitely now in education, we're trying to change that. College isn't for everybody, but everybody has something of value. And everybody's something of value is very different. I love that you said that that industry certifications could give students a boost, mentally. I can do something. That's a great recognition when you're not athletic. We tend to recognize athletes for their athletic ability and give them awards. But when do we recognize those students that they earn their first certification of their entire life? Whether it's an OSHA 10 or a food service or Microsoft Office specialist. Those are very valuable skills that we should celebrate too. So it's changing a mindset, and it's letting and helping kids and parents too, understand that these skills that we can develop in students at the high school level, they'll have their entire lives and can really help them shape their future, no matter what career path they may choose to take in the future. Even if it is a university degree and they're going to study math and become a mathematician or, a statistician and all of that, that's still a very valuable skill, and they still need math and they still need to be able to communicate, and they're still gonna have to go home and pay their bills. So they still need to know how to balance a checkbook. So it all goes hand in hand. It's hard to overcome that mindset of it's an or when it could be an and.
I'm glad to hear you say that. And I will let you know now that counselor responded very eloquently along the same lines as you. So yes, chipping away at that generational mindset for sure. But there's still a way to go. But yes, I really like how you compare like the student who's an athlete and they're going to state, they're doing really cool things. They have a game every weekend and people are cheering for them. And yeah, I mean, it's noble and it is okay to dream to be a professional athlete, but in, the grand scheme of things, how likely is that to happen? But if you get a food service sanitation certificate or a Microsoft Excel certificate, chances are you're more likely to use that than you are to be a professional athlete. So I think both of those things are very important in creating a well-rounded individual. So I did like thinking about it that way, though, that the football player, their confidence is up there, I'm sure, but we got to do the same for, the non-athletic children, those students that like to do video games or art or something that we're not necessarily celebrating out on a field every weekend. All right, so we've got a lot of good stuff going on in our region as far as career and technical education and preparing our future workforce. I know you're talking about some of the concepts, but now there's some real life things that are happening right now. I'm thinking about LIFT, Leaders Innovating for Tomorrow in Mattoon, and then the Effingham Career Academy in Effingham. Can you go into detail on either one or both of those things at all and tell us a little bit what that is and how it's going to impact our future workforce?
Yeah, both of those groups are doing amazing things for students. LIFT is open. It's a new facility. It is ran through the Mattoon School District. And they have several different programs in there that are training students and offering certifications already. There are already students learning valuable job skills. Some of the programs that are at the Lift building through that career center include early childhood education, culinary arts, HVAC training. They're also doing some programming with robots as part of some of their curriculum. There's a, oh, for lack of a better word, I don't even want, a wood shop in there where students are using a water jet laser cutter. There is a laser cutter that's in there too, where students can make various things and cut images into wood, plastic, or metal. There's also an arts and communication floor where students are learning producing videos, writing songs. I mean, it's really kind of catered to be a flexible space to meet the needs of students based upon their interests and what they enjoy doing. We all know it from being in the workforce for so many years, you know, you have to enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy it, then it's a job. If you enjoy it, then you never work a day in your life. It's something like that, right? The quote. So I know the Lift Center has some really great things going on, and they're recruiting students now for next school year. So those programs are open. The Effingham Regional Career Academy is fairly new. We've got one class that is kind of our pilot program, and it's Explore ERCA, and it's focused more on exploring career opportunities in Effingham County in 5 different career areas that have been identified as a high need area to fill workforce needs in Effingham County. Our office also does a lot with high school health occupations programs. We have about 144 students enrolled at 4 different hospitals throughout our region, and those students are working alongside of healthcare professionals in those hospital settings. And at the end of the program, they'll earn their CPR certification as well as their CNA certification by taking that state competency exam as well. So we have a lot of great activities for students.
Yes, there's a ton. There's so many options. So Health Hawk, it's pretty much a no-brainer. We need more people in healthcare. It's rapidly growing, while at the same time there's not enough people in it as it is. So definitely a deficiency we have to make up there. But how all those other programs you listed at Lift and ERCA, how was it decided that those programs would be offered? Was that just something? Matt tunes like these sound like fun, or were there some people around a table talking about needs?
Oh, there's always a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. With both organizations, with the ERCA and with Lift, there's been many focus group meetings with educational leaders, with our community college leaders in different departments and chairs throughout education, as well as many different business partners who have come together to say, okay, this is where the future of my business is going. These are the kinds of employees that I need. These are the skills that would make for a successful employee. And in turn, then the school districts take that back and they say, okay, if this is what employers need, then how can we design curriculum around that? In education, we don't do any favors if we're not meeting our workforce, if we're not setting students up for success after high school. And with the Lift program and with ERCA, that's what we in education hope to do. Our employers say, okay, I need 20 people a year to fill these positions and grow my business in HVAC. How can we partner together to meet my need? And how can I help provide you with the information and curriculum? Or can I go into the classroom and help train your students? Can I bring in my pack of specialty tools and show your students what they do and how they apply to this career? And then I can also come in and tell them how they can further their education, how they can move up the job ladder to make more money. How can they stay close to home? How can they move to another state? There's so many opportunities for business partners to get involved in education, not just even with Lift and with the ERCA, but even within their own high school programs too. We're such a large region, and our biggest obstacle is that we're so far apart from each other. These programs really rely on students to drive themselves. So that's where this technology and the virtual learning and some of that comes into play, so that students can still partake in these great opportunities at these regional centers. But if not, then there's still opportunities for those employers to go directly to their local high school and say, hey, you know, I'm going to need 10 welders. I've got this new machine coming in 6 months. Can your students partner with me and help? Can I help train some students? And maybe they would consider this as a career when they graduate high school, or maybe it's even building connections with local employers through mentoring programs, of which both ERCA and LIFT try to do, so that if students do go to college out of state or across the state or whatever that might be, when they're ready for a job, maybe they'll think about that mentor that they had and call them and say, hey, I'm going to graduate. You and I worked on this project together. I really enjoyed it. Do you have any openings in your company? Would you be willing to look at my resume? And hoping that we can retain our best and our top talent from our schools.
You just hit like all of the things I wanted you to hit, hammer head on the nail. Yeah, so LIFT and ERCA they're very obvious intentional collaborations between education and workforce, so that we're not making any mistakes. We're not doing anything that's unnecessary or just completely off the wall. We are preparing the future workforce for the workforce that they are going to be entering. And while, yes, this has been going on for years with career and technical education at the high schools, it's just really cool to see it highlighted and very dedicated and proud with these two entities that are coming into fruition and starting their first years or so. But yeah, my next question I was going to get into was about how do we keep highly trained students here in the area? And I really like how you even talk about they might go away to get additional training, additional education, but if we make these really strong ties with them now, they are likely to come back. And I think we're already seeing that as young adults leave the area, they might start a family or start a career, but they're coming back and investing in their hometown. So I think that's really cool. But what else can we do, or what else should we think about doing in order to not lose our talent pool, to not have every student wanting to run away to the nearest big city to get out of, the rural area that we are in? Yeah,
I feel it's very important that we recognize students for who they are and where they're at. Just, like I've been talking about the student certifications and recognizing that not all kids are college bound. Building a connections, telling kids that they can do it. They can do whatever whatever they want to do. We oftentimes talk about kids, well, I can't go to college because I can't afford it. Well, but with the FAFSA, with grants, and unfortunately with student loans, you can do that. And there are some jobs that would even help pay for your college experience. And maybe it's connecting students with that if that's their mindset. I feel really passionate about connecting students with business mentors, setting students up. There's so many jobs in each community that you really couldn't just put it on paper. It really helps that if students can get out and see the jobs, see the facilities. Manufacturing's not a dirty, hot place. It's air conditioned. They have forklifts and all these safety features. And they do amazing things too. And a manufacturer is not just working on a floor, standing by a robot. It may be moving pallets. It may be fixing the building. It may be in the accounting office. It may be working on the semis. If you're a distribution center, it could be working in their marketing department so that they can sell the supplies. There's so many jobs that you don't associate when you first hear manufacturing. It's kind of the same thing when you hear the hospital and health occupations. It's not just about training students to do hands-on patient care. There's so many jobs at any of our hospital partners. You need custodians, you need people in central sterile, you need people in the lab, you need people in the pharmacy. And those are not, you need people in record keeping and billing and still people to repair the leaky ceiling or the drippy faucet. Those are all jobs that are needed in healthcare that are not healthcare related. And it's hard sometimes to kind of put two and two together, but if we can take students out of the high school setting, lecture with an instructor, get them into these facilities, even if it's a quick tour, even if it's 20 minutes, or even if it's, hey, I'm going to do this hands-on integral activity where I want the students to physically come here and we're going to have them touch these tools and they're going to build this item. That's so valuable to the students. And it really makes them feel special. And hopefully that's how we can help keep our students local, help keep our students feel like they're welcomed and that we want them to apply for these jobs. It's also about building our pipeline and those mechanisms that can grow our pipeline. It's no secret, this region is amazing. We've got a community college and a four-year university within 10 miles of each other. That alone can provide so many opportunities for students. If we have the training programs for our students, and hopefully that will also bring some of these large employers with these fancy, flashy, high-paying jobs into our communities, then that's more opportunities for our kids, so it kind of it all goes hand in hand together.
It does. It sounds like we just need to get them the experiences, the connections, the involvement, and the opportunities will fall right into place for them. So Laura, we could talk about this for like 9 more hours, I think easily, but we are out of time. So thank you so much for joining me today. I do think I want to have you back and we could talk a little bit more about some of more specific initiatives that are going on and what our business partners and our workforce partners can do to help prepare the workforce for the future. So thank you so much. It's been wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Workforce Innovation News powered by LWIA 23. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about LWIA 23, visit lwa23.net.